Hi there, I'm Dr. Christine. I am an energy psychology practitioner, life purpose coach, and intuitive. And today I am wanting to make a video about the Four Agreements. Um, if you haven't read the Four Agreements yet, I want to highly recommend that you do. It's a book by Miguel Ruiz, a Toltec wisdom man, I want to call him. And the teachings have changed my life in very significant and transformative ways. It's a book, and the ideas in this book are, um, I would say, vastly popular in the spiritual and personal growth and self-help communities, and they really pertain to this idea of shift in consciousness. Okay, uh, let me go into that a little bit. So the idea is that right now we're going through a massive shift in consciousness. You can see that simply by seeing how many people are turning to newer healing modalities. Like 10 years ago, Reiki was something that most people didn't really talk about or knew about, and these days it's starting to be a common household name. Just as one example, okay. Um, and more people are going in the direction of personal growth, of self-help, and all of these things. And it was really triggered, uh, I believe, by the COVID-19 pandemic. So so that said, the Four Agreements really fit into that movement really well. All right, because they help us shift that mindset that we have, that's wanting to be shifted right now, which is coming, as a shift from fear to love. All right, from choosing fear every day, choosing fear meaning being judgmental of other people or ourselves, uh, choosing to just be not, just coming from a fearful place where we think people are against us, or people want to harm us, or we need to compete, or we need to judge people, and we need to judge ourselves, and we're very harsh, and the inner critic, and all of that good stuff. Okay. And so we want to shift away from that and towards a more loving place. All right. And if you're interested in that idea, you can watch more videos on that. I post videos every week, and I'm also on Facebook. I have a couple groups there. I will put the links below. You can check us out there. I have a coaching group where you can join me for free, and then I also have another group. So that said, self promotion. Um, I I really want to encourage you to watch or to read the Four Agreements. Okay, and if you haven't read them, that's not a problem. I will be talking a little bit about them, and how I understand them. Okay, this is my interpretation, and my opinion, and also how spirit talks to me about it, because a lot of what I teach and what I and the ways that I share healing is inspired and channeled by spirit, higher consciousness, God, whatever you want to call it. Okay. So that said, the Four Agreements are the following. Okay. It's don't make assumptions, don't judge yourself or others, be impeccable with your word, and always do your best. So going into that, don't make assumptions really is all about the idea that we each create our own unique reality, and no reality is different from, or all realities are kind of unique from other realities. Okay, so like a fingerprint, my reality is unique, and nobody else has that same reality or way of perceiving life and perceiving ourselves and perceiving others. Okay, that reality is created by our early caretakers, the people that you know took care of us from, 0 to, I want to say maybe 16, 17, okay, 18. And they are really the primary people that shape how we see reality. But it's obviously also shaped by other family members, by other people we grew up with, teachers, friends, and so on and so forth. And they all have kind of different levels of influence on us, right? If you are interested in that, also go look at my other videos. I talk about this a lot, okay? But based on that, we tell ourselves a lot of things, right, about a lot of people. We make assumptions. Often fights and misunderstandings are coming from exactly that place of making assumptions, which is why it's so very important to learn how to directly communicate in a not passive aggressive way, so that we don't have to make assumptions, so that we can, keep our peace, right? And making assumption is a, we all do it, right? We all assume something, right? Especially when we haven't communicated clearly with somebody and actually asked them, I'm assuming this, is this right? And so based on those stories and based on those assumptions that we make, we also judge. We judge other people's, okay? We think that, it might be a certain way when it really isn't, okay? And I'll tell you a story there that really, really touched my heart, okay? Because I relate to it. So many of us, I think, many of us who are driving and are drivers and own a car or rent a car or whatever, I guess, have probably experienced a case of road rage before, okay? It's interesting what cars do to us. We will think everybody's against us and we're the only person in this world that can actually drive this car and knows the traffic rules and knows all of that, right? And so, we will curse and we will make assumptions about other drivers, right? And so there was this story that I once read. It really touched me. It was about a woman who was in not a good mood, okay? She was like driving around and she was stressed out, and I think she had to like pick up her kids and I don't know, she was stressed out, and she was on this parking lot, and another driver stole her parking space, okay? Very annoying thing if it happened to you before. You're looking around for a parking space and finally you find one, and before you know it, this one person like steals it away from you. It's, can be really annoying, can create some frustration and anger in you. And so that's what happened, right? And so she decided to roll down her window and yell at the person, okay? And she was yelling and, in rage and like, how dare you take my parking spot? And before you know it, this, young woman steps out of the car and starts crying and starts telling her how she's had such a hard day because she had a miscarriage, and she just, found out that she had lost that baby, and she apologized, and suddenly they connected on a human level, okay? There wasn't the car around them anymore. There wasn't the ego. There wasn't this assumption of like, this asshole took my parking space, okay? But we became human. They became human with each other. And the lady who was enraged suddenly completely shifted and was like, I am so sorry. I'm so sorry. I made assumptions about what was going on. And of course, you would have an awful day. And of course, I understand this was a misunderstanding. I know you didn't want to enrage me. You didn't want to, hurt me or make me angry or any of that, steal my parking space on purpose. You just had a really, really awful day and a really bad loss. And when we come, when we can shift from that to fearful place of everybody's against me and now this asshole took my parking space, to a place that is more loving, all right? A place that's more compassionate, a place where we can give people the benefit of the doubt and realize that we're actually not that different from one another, okay? We all want to be loved. We all want to be feeling safe. We all want to, have a good amount of money, have a roof over our head, and have a nice family around us. And we all go through this experience of grief once in a while that will make us act in a certain way. Then we can create a more loving world. All right. And this is not like fluffy loving world, but this is really what's needed in the world right now. And so that's kind of this idea of don't make assumptions, and we actually moved into don't judge. Okay. Because out of the assumptions you will go into a judgy place. All right. I've had that happen a lot of times in my life, where people assume something about me and assume something about what I wrote them or texted them. Happens with text messages most of all. I'm telling you, I mean, I'm a texting person, okay? But if you can, and if it's important, always call people, because then you can actually explain to them and they can hear your voice, and it's a totally different way. They don't need to make assumptions, because they can ask questions to receive the clarity to really fully understand where you're coming from, okay? But I've had it happen to me where people it happens in my own family, where people completely, assume something and completely misunderstand where I'm coming from. And then based on that, choose very fearful ways of reacting. All right. And when we step out of that, when we step out of making assumptions, and we step out of judging people based on their actions and the assumptions we make about those actions, then we actually create a very healing space. We create a space where we can take a breath, all right, check in with that universal loving space that we all come from, and say, okay, well, what's really going on here? Okay. And then we can act proactively. And when we act proactively, so meaning we take a step back and we don't react, and we say, whoo, I'm really worked up right now. Let me just take a breath here. And then, and maybe sit with it for a moment and think about it. Then we can come from a loving and a compassionate space. Then we can ask questions and saying, hey, what's going on? How are you feeling? Can you share with me? Can you, I'm assuming this. Can you verify to me that what I'm assuming is actually right? And then that creates a totally different dynamic. Okay, that's choosing love. That's choosing a loving interaction with somebody. That's choosing healthy relationships. That's choosing not to engage with toxicity and negativity. And we need less of that, less of negativity and toxicity, and more of a compassionate way of interacting with each other, whether that's within our family systems and within our circles of friends, or whether that's with complete strangers. Okay. And then the last thing is be impeccable with your word. Okay. Know that words can really hit. Words are energy. And when words are energy loaded with negativity, like that asshole, how dare she, that can really hit people. That can really hurt. Okay. And that can put stuff on you. All right. I don't know if you believe in karma or things like that, but that can, it can create a lot of damage. Okay. And a lot of us walk through the world and say, we don't want to, we want to save the animal world. We want to save the plant world, but what about each other? Okay. We can really damage and hurt each other with words. So choosing our words wise is not only a very compassionate and good thing in terms of stepping into the world in a more loving way, but it is also just a really good practice for ourselves, because we're going to like ourselves better. Even choosing the words with ourselves, okay, just noticing how we judge ourselves and the kinds of words we use ourselves, which, by the way, your inner critic is either your mom or your dad, or a combination of that, or caretaker, whoever took care of you, that first person, those first people that cared for you when you were a baby, and then into teenage years. That's your inner critic. Notice that. This is when I'm just notice it. See who's actually speaking in your head. But it's exactly that same thing. Okay, we can hurt ourselves, we can hurt other people, and we create our reality with words. Okay, words is energy. Words are feelings and energy, and with our feelings and our energy, we're very powerful beings. We create our reality, because, and this, the Bible says this, and other religious texts and so on and so forth say it too, is that we are made in the image of God. all right? And this is not just a saying, it's not biblical or religious or whatever else. It's the truth. We are made in the image of God. That's why we're here. We're here to remember who we truly are, which is part and parcel of that divine, loving being that created the universe and the worlds and all of it. And just like, that essence created everything, we also are creator. Okay, we can create our reality. And how do we create our reality? With our words, and the energy that impacts. Okay, the energy that is in those words. And so we want to become very conscious of how we speak, what we say, and how we use our words and how they're directed. Okay, because that will really define how we experience our reality. A lot of people, and see how that sits with you. If that really doesn't resonate with you, and you're like, hell, like what do you mean? I'm creating my own reality. A lot of people are scared of that truth, that we are actually responsible for each and every experience. It's especially hard to hear when you're very sick and you're dealing with illness, or you're dealing with other tragedy. A lot of people are like, well, what do you mean I created that? But to an extent, we do. I mean, there's many different facets. There's some karma. There's some things that we decided to work through in this lifetime and just had to happen. But there's also a really big piece in this where we do create. We are that powerful, right? There's a reason why some people can create millions and millions of dollars, and others are struggling. All right, it's all in the word. So be impeccable with your word. And then lastly, always do your best. Okay, and that just means it's all a practice, and it's okay to mess up. Okay, life is one big practice. We don't need to be perfect. We will mess up. We will fail. It's okay. Like I tell my daughter, it's okay to make mistakes, as long as we apologize and we try to, learn out of our mistakes and not do the same thing over and over and over again. Einstein said that was insanity. Okay, so as long as we don't, repeat the patterns over and over again, we're fine. We're practicing every day. I'm practicing, you're practicing, we're just practicing. So this is also a practice. It's a practice to wake up every morning and not make assumptions, and catch ourselves when we do, and then remind ourselves not to make assumptions. It's a practice to not judge and to choose compassion. My personal mantra this year actually is, I choose compassion over judgment. And when I notice myself judging, I shift and I say, okay, well, let me not judge that. Okay, I don't want to judge that. I want to practice compassion and say, okay, maybe I can understand that to an extent, and if I can't understand it, at least I can accept it. Okay, and then being impeccable with our word, and being again compassionate with our word, and just practicing. Some days will be better than others, and that's okay too, as long as we continue to engage in the practice and continue to strive to use this and to share it with others. Okay, so that's all I have for you in this video. If you're again interested in learning more about me, you can go and look in the link below. You can reach out to me if you'd like to work with me. I'm a life purpose coach. I help people find their life purpose and really figure out what they're here to do in these times. And I'm also an energy healer practitioner, so I combine those things. So it's a pretty unique offering, very therapeutic. I am also an intuitive, and I do intuitive readings. And I post these videos, all right? So I'm on Facebook. Find me on Facebook. There's links below as well. And, furthermore, share this if it resonated with you. And subscribe to the channel. All right, be well, my friends.